Oh, we're small again. That was my fault. There we go. There we go. All right.
That's small.
That will get bigger. Watch.
Okay. Oh, there you go. Good job.
It takes about 18 seconds, but you know. Yeah. All right. So we're back. Israel, my delight. Thank you so much for joining us once again. We had a wonderful time on Hidden Voice of Hadassah. Thank you very much for inviting me, AviGayle.
Of course.
I really
Thank you for
appreciate that.
joining me. I appreciate it.
I really appreciate that very, very much. Well, you know, and again, I think we're gonna, because Yosef, you know, we have the chapter 37 all the way through the chapter 50, broken into 4 parsha readings. That's what ends the book of Genesis, the book of Bereshit. We really get to know Yosef. We get to see him develop and see who he becomes. You know, when we talk about a Moshiach ben Yosef and a Moshiach ben David, the Yosef is Yosef, the 11th born of Yaakov. And his main objective was to preserve life. I mean, that he didn't even know it. He did not even know it. And you know, but the Father's favor was upon him, and he brought him through all those different things that took place in there. But it really kind of parallels the life of Yeshua. It's interesting, you know, a lot of people today, and you know, and unfortunately, I just think it's out of tradition more so than really any kind of knowledge. That you just got out of the whole thing, so
sorry.
That's okay. That's all right. It doesn't matter to me. I had that one. That's perfect. And so you have you know, Messiah, and a lot of people celebrate his birth you know, this time of year, and when in fact more, if you really kind of, you know, because do we know mainly? Probably not, but we can kind of look at the hints of Scripture on when he was indeed conceived and then born. And it's quite interesting because he probably was conceived, and this is interesting because you know, some have looked at this and conceived that he was conceived during Hanukkah. Now that would be interesting, wouldn't it? That he was conceived during the festival of lights, the dedication, and was born right on the first day, the 15th of the 7th month of the full moon. I mean, just imagine that. That's kind of an interesting concept, because why do we even go there and think that might be when Yeshua was born during the feast of Sukkot? Well, it gives you a hint in John 1. It gives you a hint in John 1. And it says in verse 14, John 1:14, it says, "And the Word became flesh and pitched his tent," or his sukkah, or, you know, other versions say, and tabernacled among us. So we see that, and we're like, okay, that's very interesting. And then you know, then also you look at Luke 2, I think it's 2, and where is it? Yeah, and here it is in verse 2. After the birth, it says, you know, so verse 2, verse 7, chapter 2, verse 7, "And she gave birth to her firstborn son and wrapped him up in swaddling clothes and and laid him down in a feeding trough, because there was no room for them at the lodging place." And in the same country, there were shepherds living out in the fields, keeping watch over their flock by night. And look, a messenger. So there's the key. If he was born December 25th, you were actually in. Were you actually in on the 25th, or were you um, maybe a little bit before? But you were in Israel in December.
Yes.
How was it at nighttime?
Cold.
Yeah, you didn't dress very properly, did you?
No.
I mean, you had to buy a few very warm fleece.
Exactly. Exactly. Yes.
So if you have your sheep out in the field by night, if you're living out in the field by night, that's what the shepherds would do, watch over them, they would be freezing. They would be freezing. So the connection again, we talked about, Yosef. We talked about Moshiach ben Yosef. We talked about the connection of Hanukkah and Yosef, and Hanukkah being a type of Sukkot, because the Maccabees and the Israelites could not do the proper sacrifices and all that during Sukkot, because the temple was defiled and needed to be cleansed of all the filth and unrighteousness that was in there, and all the things that took place. And now we see that a Messiah is born, again, probably right around the first day of Sukkot, or at least sometime during Sukkot, because he came and he when he was born, he was the Word, and the Word tabernacled among us, set his tent among us, sent his sukkah among us. So there's a lot of hints that we can look at and say that is so cool. That is so awesome, because we have the Sukkot, because that's called the Festival of Lights. Hanukkah is also called a Festival of Lights. Dedication, there's dedication in Sukkot. Sukkot is a feast, a celebration for the nations. Remember what Zechariah talks about, that all nations shall come to Jerusalem once a year during Sukkot and worship the Creator of heaven and earth. So we see that extremely well. I mean, but talking about his birth quickly, is you have basically four mentions of that. Three that we know of. The one that I just talked about, and he became the Word and came down and dwelt among us. He tabernacled among us. We just talked about Luke 2. And Luke 2 is a very interesting one also, because if he was in fact born in Sukkot, he came into Bethlehem. He was. It's very similar. I mean, you think of it. He was outside. They were in Nazareth when she was pregnant. She was, and Joseph, her husband, they were in Nazareth, but a census had to take place, and the enemy, Rome, forced them. It wasn't their choice. He forced them to go to their origin, their land of origin, their town of origin, in order to have that census made, and that was in Bethlehem. So they came to Bethlehem, but again, it's interesting, because the enemy of Yah's people, the enemies of Israel, are a tool in the hands of the Father to bring prophecy to come to pass. Because it said in Micah about that, you, O Ephrata, small, small as you are, a ruler will come out of you, Bethlehem, house of bread. He is the bread of life. He had to do that in order to do it. So so we see that in Luke. We also talk about, where it talks about these swaddling clothes. If you read this, if you read some of the scriptures, what were you remember those swaddling clothes were, especially in Bethlehem, because Bethlehem is only a short, maybe 3 to 5 miles from Jerusalem, and that's where they kept the sheep that were to be sacrificed, the pure sheep that were to be sacrificed. Interesting. When the mother and father, Joseph and Mary, could not get into the inn because there were so many people, they had to turn to going to this, what we call a manger, a feeding trough, and lay the Savior, the deliverer of the world, in that. But that place where they were was a very special place because it was the priestly stable, if you will, where the priests were, and they would come and take care of those sheep. They would literally wrap those sheep in those swaddling clothes in order so that they would not have a blemish on them. I think that's fascinating, and all the swaddling clothes came from all the priests' garments that were old, and they had to have new garments, because they would have new garments every once in a while. But they regarded those old garments as set apart because they were priestly robes, and they used them, made strips out of them. They used them, one for the swaddling clothes, for the and that was something that took place, in that time frame with all babies. But they did it with the lambs. But then they also took them to light the 7-branch candlestick. And in Jerusalem during Sukkot, they had 4 huge 7-branch candlesticks outside of the temple, because you wouldn't take the one in the temple outside, but they had other ones that they would put in like the 4 corners, if you will, the 4, north, south, east, west, and those things would just light up Jerusalem. I mean, we talk about Jerusalem as the golden city. Well, it is a golden city. Jerusalem stone, even though that is not there anymore, there's still some remnants of that. If they, they in the Western Tunnel, right by the Western Wall, they have actually dug literally down to the 1st century, and we've been through that. And it was phenomenal to actually go down there and actually see. But the stones are basically the same stones, if you will, all that golden color. When we were coming into Jerusalem for the first time from Tel Aviv, the airport, we were driving in I think it was a taxi, whatever they call those things, and you go up. Jerusalem is on a mountain, and you go up to Jerusalem, that Aliyah. And it was like 5 o'clock in the morning that we were getting there. We got in about 1 o'clock in the morning, and then by the time we got everything ready to go, we were coming in, and the sun was rising on Jerusalem, and the sun was hitting those beautiful walls and the stones, the Jerusalem stones, even though it was made by the Turks. It doesn't really matter. But it's Jerusalem stone, and it literally looked like the city was on fire.
Yes. Looked like gold.
It did.
It looked like it was made out of gold. It was absolutely beautiful. It was breathtaking. And it's amazing how people just like to spend evenings, late evenings, in that area, because it's so refreshing. It's just absolutely beautiful. And so it was absolutely beautiful. So, yeah, I mean, what memories of going into Israel? What beautiful memories of going into Israel. And it's supernatural. It really is a supernatural experience, and it makes me homesick.
It does. It really does. It really does. And that's And that's where Joseph was. That's where Abraham, Isaac, Jacob were. That's where the 12 tribes were. Um, that's where Joshua and Caleb and Moshe never got in there until chapter 17 of Matthew in the Transfiguration, um, and with Elijah, and it was King David, Solomon, Eliyahu, Elisha, all the main all the everybody that was written in the book, in the book, this beautiful book that we get to read. It's awesome. But I had actually some. Let me just read a little bit about the swaddling clothes, because I just think that was kind of interesting. I just saw some things. So it was an ancient and common practice used to wrap newborn infants tightly in strips of cloth, providing warmth, security, and promoting proper limb growth. Interesting. Proper limb growth. For lambs designated for temple sacrifices, specific Levitical shepherds in Bethlehem would wrap the newborn males in these clothes to protect them from any spots or blemishes, ensuring that they remained without blemish as required for the temple offering. The swaddling clothes mentioned in the nativity story, Luke 2, verses 7 and 2, verse 12, are interpreted by some traditions as a type of material used for these sacrificial lambs. The angels gave the shepherds the swaddling clothes as a sign to identify Yeshua as the Lamb of Elohim. Wouldn't it be kind of cool? I mean, I just this just came to me. It didn't say that, and I didn't even read that. But the angels, after the birth of Yeshua, the angels, the messengers, came to the shepherds and told them about what has happened in Bethlehem. Were they the Levitical shepherds that learned about that? I don't know. That's an interesting thought.
Yeah, we should research that.
Yeah, I mean, at this point, I would say yes. At this point, I mean, that's my hope anyway. But I think it might have been. That's interesting, because that was. But there was a lot of time that passed between the birth of Yeshua and then the Messiah being revealed to Israel.
Yes.
Some 30 years later. It's an interesting, and then also the temple wicks, as we mentioned, those same worn garments were discarded. They weren't discarded because they were considered holy. They were torn into pieces and cut into strips, repurposed for various sacred uses, including being braided into wicks for the menorah lampstand and other oil lamps within the temple courts. These massive lamps were said to light up the entire city of Jerusalem during the Feast of Tabernacles.
Wow.
So you see the the connection of the birth of Yeshua, really, and that truth told, that understanding of a redeemer coming in to the world. The Father needed to bring back his people, to woo them back, to bring them back by someone who would set them apart, someone that would set them straight, if you will, through his obedience and who he was, and that we could have life everlasting, preserved life by his blood, by the redeeming factor of who Yeshua is. And I just think that is just an awesome thing.
Yeah, I mean, when you start to connect the dots with everything that has transpired over the years, and we think about, like you talk about, like that period of time, but let's even look at the period of time that we're living in right now, and this kind of conversation should manifest when we talk to people, because it's something that's needs to be thought about. The purpose for the land of Israel. Israel has a purpose, and it's a divine purpose. So and there's some things that happen in Israel that um, are challenging. Let's put it that way. But there's other things that happen in Israel that really have a divine purpose, and they stir the hearts of people to press on and to continue. We know people that live there, and they're very encouraged by the tenacity, the faithfulness of those who are living in Israel, and tilling the soil of Israel, and building Israel, because it's a divine place. It's a divine place, and so that's why we talk about it. That's why we bring it to everybody's attention, because it's a very significant property, and it belongs to the Father, and there's caretakers there that take care of it very, very seriously. So the only way to describe it is that it has a divine purpose. It's just not there to take up space. It's there to identify our patriarchs that traveled there and lived. And like we were talking about Joseph, and talking about other patriarchs, Abraham, and many of our patriarchs, Jacob. So there's significance. It's really good to wrap your mind around the life of these men and women who have really served in Israel to keep it alive, to keep it flourishing, to reproduce. They have children, they have babies, and it's beautiful, and they just care for the land. They care for to protect the land. The IDF soldiers, I always say Yahweh Zavaot, the mighty warrior, watches over Israel and watches over us too. So we have to. I think that there's something that is said about having an understanding of what actually transpires in the land of Israel, what actually transpires in the land where you live, what's going on in the land where you're living, and to compare, contrast what's going on there. Are the people that live in your neighborhood, are they people that have a faith in God, faith in Elohim? Are they people that observe and guard the Sabbath and Hanukkah and the Festival of Lights? And so it's something to be reckoned. Really, we need to recognize, how are we living our life? What are we doing with our life? Are we living our life to continue to preserve that which the Father has given us for when the Lord returns, when our Messiah returns? He's returning to Israel. He's returning to the Mount of Olives.
That's right.
And so, we need to really recognize that as a significant time. Exactly when it's going to happen, we don't know. But there's always that preparation time. There's always that preparation, preparing our hearts and introducing this message to other people. Just planting a seed. We don't even have to, go to a whole bunch of dialogue concerning it. But just ask the question, have you ever thought about Israel? And if you have thought about Israel, what have you thought about Israel? Have you thought about the people in Israel? Have you thought about the characters, the people that we read about in the scriptures? Have you read the scriptures? Because it connects the dots.
That's right.
It connects the lifestyle. And that's significant.
You connect the dots, and you connect the lifestyle, which is awesome. Here's a very interesting connection. I think that. So if in fact he was in that manger, feeding trough, um, for the in that stable, and it was the Levitical stable where they put the priest, because I could not see the Levitical priesthood say, no, I'm sorry, you can't come here. I mean, this is, off grounds, for somebody who, someone who's giving birth, they like their brother Joseph want to preserve life. So, but they had a specific task to do, and their task was to take care of the animals for the sacrifice, take care of the 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 worn garments of the priests, and cut them into those strips for the swaddling of the animals. Right? So even though that was a practice of doing that for babies, I don't think they had a lot of babies going through that place. Maybe baby sheep. And they did it to the sheep. So think of this: we have and they were for sacrificial reasons. Messiah was for a sacrifice for us. So he had those swaddling clothes on his body from the priestly robes. Think about that for a second. Wow. Not only that, but those same pieces of cloth were braided together to make the wicks for the 7-branch candlestick.
Yes. Yes.
The light of the world.
Yes.
During Sukkot, where I really truly believe Yeshua was born, that Jerusalem was lit up. It was like a burning torch that you could see that for miles and miles and miles. And if in fact Miriam was giving birth in that stable, they could have very easily seen Jerusalem 5 miles away, whatever it was, because you're looking up, because when you're coming down from Jerusalem, you're going down, and so everything is below Jerusalem. And if those 4 large 7-branch candlesticks were aflame, if they were in the court or in Jerusalem in strategic places, that place would have been lit up, and they could have seen that. So reminding Miriam and Joseph who the light of the world actually is, because he was wrapped not only in the strips that were priestly robes that were used for the lambs,
Mm-hmm.
but also for the light of the world, the menorah. That in that holy place, that is the only item that is giving light in the holy place. Where the showbread is, where the altar of incense is, then the veil, then the Holy of Holies with the Ark of the Covenant. I just think that, boy, I'm glad we're talking about this tonight. I didn't know. Sometimes, we research things for, days, and other times we just kind of get an idea. And that was today. I just got an idea and said, wow, well, let's have a conversation and let's see what the Father does. And so far, I'm enjoying it.
Yes, because what it is it's refreshing, because everything that happens with connecting the dots with other people has to do with life, and the life in Israel is about life for human people, human beings. It's all about life, and it's all about understanding the do's and don'ts of how we live our life. There's restrictions,
That's right.
and there's laws. I heard this today, and I thought this was so good. I thought this was so good. And if I could remember how it was actually said, you can't have a good life unless there are laws. Remember we heard that today on that level.
Without
laws, you don't have life.
And you don't have peace.
You don't have peace.
Yeah.
So the key to this that's very significant because the word, the Torah, is a book of laws. It's a book of laws, and it's a book of laws for the human beings. It's a book of laws even for nature. I mean, there's times when there's you cannot partake of the food there. There's a, what do you call it, fast that takes place.
Right.
And so the laws preserve life. Laws are important. That's why it's so important to read the scriptures, because of the laws that are in the scriptures. It's to preserve life. It's to preserve life. It's to protect life, protection. So when we think in terms of that, it really, to me, it's refreshing to know that we have a creator who wrote the scriptures and gave us the instructions on how to preserve life, how to live a life that will bring about preservation. It'll also bring about joy and shalom. Every part of the laws has to do with life. The laws have to do with life. And that's why they're significant. So when you hear people complain about laws, there's a problem. There's a problem, and people need to be explained about laws are good because there's protection and there's life that flows from these laws. It preserves life. That's why we have the Torah. The Torah is a book of laws, preserving life, giving the instructions, so that we don't go astray. We don't try to redesign or re-implement what the laws are, change the laws. No, they were given to us by men from years ago that knew the divine word that would bring about preservation of life, to preserve life. And so I felt like that was such a significant statement to make. We need the laws. We need the laws of the scriptures.
Yeah, we do, and we need the laws of the land
Yes,
too, and
yes.
that they need, and some of them obviously, there are nothing in the scriptures, but in man-made laws, when you talk about all different types of things, there can be some that are not good, and they need to be changed. But if in fact there are good laws, like, just for instance, and this is where people really, I think, miss it a lot, is, if you are from another country and you step over into the United States without permission, that means without going through the process, without getting some sort of a visa or a green card or this, going through the ports of entry and getting in legally that way, you still will not be a citizen of the United States, but you would be here legally. A lot of people have stepped over. Now, if you're talking 15 million, I don't know how many it was. I mean, there's been so many different numbers, but we'll say 15 million, and only 1 million of them are bad people. Others are just coming in for to get a better life. Well, that can, that's I can understand that, but if you step over without having permission, I don't care if you didn't do anything other than just jump over, it's still breaking the law. And there's consequences when you break the law. And you see all these other people that are in control and whatnot, protecting lawbreakers, if you will. And if you're just dealing with a little teeny law, it could go into a little bit bigger, a little bit bigger, a little bit bigger, a little bit bigger. And I love that statement where, without the law, there is no peace. And we need to get, because a country without borders is no country. And we need to have a border with a country, a country with a border. Let me do another connection for this. This is actually good. We get some good time left, so that's good. In chapter 2 of Luke, verse 25, this is after the birth, after the 8 days of the circumcision, and then after the 30 days of the cleansing of Miriam. And it says, and see, there was a man in Jerusalem whose name was Shimon, and this man was righteous and dedicated. I love that. Dedicated. The feast of dedication. He was constantly in the temple waiting for the Messiah of Israel, because the Father told him that he would see him before he died. And he was an old man. He said, this man was righteous and dedicated, looking for the comforting of Israel. Now, there's a perfect title of Moshiach ben Yosef. Because what did Yosef do in Egypt? He comforted the people. He comforted Israel. He provided for Israel, for truth and life and prosperity and the word and to be able to worship and practice and do and guard the word of Yah. So you have this man who was looking for the comforting of Israel, and the set apart spirit was upon him. And it had been revealed to him by the set apart spirit that he would not see death before he sees the Messiah of Yahweh. And he came in the spirit. This guy was a very sensitive, spiritually sensitive man that just knew the Father. He had that intimate relationship with the Father. And he came into the spirit in the set apart place. And as the parents brought the child Yeshua to do for him according to the usual practice of the Torah, he then took him up in his arms and blessed Elohim and said, and I'll read that in a second, but it's interesting. And that statement, and he came in the spirit in the set apart place, and the parents brought in the child Yeshua to do for him according to the usual practice of the Torah, and that was to do an ascending offering and a sin offering, and the poor could do it with 2 doves or 2 pigeons, and I think that's what they might have had, two pigeons, and he took him up in his arms and blessed Elohim and said, now let your servant go in shalom, O master, according to your word, for my eyes have seen your deliverance, your Yeshua, which you have prepared before the face of all the peoples. Hear this now. A light for the unveiling of the nations. That's Isaiah 42:6 and 49:6. And the glory of your people, Israel. That is awesome. That is awesome. That's a mic drop.
Yeah. I mean, it's and it has to be reinforced all the time. I mean, and that's why they do it. It's line upon line and precept upon precept. This is in the scriptures. These are in the divine word, in order for what? To protect, to guide, to instruct, to enhance the relationship between the people and the Father and the land. It's all about relationship. It's all about relationship. And that's one beautiful what we've learned so many times going to Israel. It has so much to do about relationship. And it's very obvious that that's how there's if there's going to be any kind of a judgment that takes place, it has to do with how the people respond and relate to the people of Israel in the land of Israel when you go there. Is there a submission? Is there a respect? Is there a desire to understand and know more of what's required? And it's adapted, and it can be adapted to anyone that has a heart to say, I understand the significance of respecting the law, because without the law, there is no shalom. Without having the law manifesting, the law meaning the divine word, there is no shalom. There, and it because it's common sense. It's common sense, and it brings about a protection.
That's right.
And so, one thing that is very concerning for me, and it's been taking place lately, unfortunately, and it has to do with people's understanding about Israel and about the people of Israel, the children of Israel, our brothers and sisters who are Jewish, who are, they're following the Torah, they're following the word, the divine word, and the understanding of how we need to have relationship with the children of Israel. There needs to be a relationship with the children of Israel. If we look at it, our Messiah, our Redeemer, is Jewish. He came from the tribe of Judah. He was born from in the womb. He was made, if you will, developed in the womb of a Jewish woman. And this is our Redeemer. This is Yeshua, our Redeemer. He sacrificed for us. He gave his life for us. He's our bridegroom. He's our Redeemer. And so I just pray that people come to an understanding, and we pray it every day, that people come to an understanding of the significance of us having a relationship with the children of Israel. Respect, love, and understand that it is very significant for that relationship to develop, and not to have an anti-Semitic attitude about Israel. I mean, it's becoming very, very obvious that type of attitude would love to take over. But I think we should, have a stand and have relationship and discuss it.
Amen. Wow.
I really believe we should, James.
I do. We got some things coming up that we're discussing privately that may come to pass, and if they do, we'll let you know, and it'll be very interesting, because things like that would be very interesting for that, and you know what I mean. So, but we're going to end it with this, just quickly, and so we mentioned the 3 times in the New Testament, and I mentioned 4, but there was 3 that we mentioned with the birth of Messiah: Matthew and Luke, and also John 1. The first chapter of John. But there's also another place that we don't really sometimes. I mean, I know I never really looked at it from the birth and nativity, if you will. I looked at it much more in a spiritual aspect, but it may be in a spoken in a spiritual tone, but it is certainly the birth of our Messiah, our Redeemer, the one who restores us back to the Father. And it's in Revelation 12. And it says, and a great sign was seen in the heaven, a woman clad with the sun, with the moon under her feet, and on her head a crown of 12 stars. I'm just going to stop there for a second. That again brings it back to the Joseph story. And that's where we've been kind of planting our two teachings, the on Hidden Voice of Hadassah and on Israel My Delight, on the story of Joseph and Egypt. One of the second dream that he had was about the sun and the moon and the 11 stars. He was the 12th star, bowing down to him. But here we have again now the sun that was clad with the sun, and the moon under her feet, and on her head a crown of 12 stars. So now, and it says, and being pregnant. So I think there's a connection there. I just see a connection there. And being pregnant, she cried out in labor and in pain to give birth. So obviously that's a picture of Miriam giving birth to the Messiah, with the whole house of Israel around her. You know, the sun, the moon, and the father, the mother, the 12 stars, the 12 tribes. And it says that another sign was seen in heaven. So anytime you have something that's very, very positive that's going on, there's gonna be an enemy that's gonna try to stop it. You saw in the Joseph story, you could even bring it and I'm not going to do it right now, but bring it to the brothers who were angry and frustrated and hated Joseph. That's one part of it. But then he went into a place that was foreign, exile. He was like really the first of the exiles, if you will, of the 12 tribes, and you could see what was taking place, and at every turn, the enemy, Potiphar's, the slavery itself, bondage itself, then Potiphar's wife, and then the prison of Pharaoh, until because you had to spend another 2 years in that prison when he could have been probably let out earlier by the steward, but the steward forgot Joseph at that point. So you see this here, and it says, and another sign was seen in the heaven, and see a great fiery red dragon having 7 heads and 10 horns and 7 crowns on his head, and his tail draws a third of the stars of the heavens and throws them down to the earth. And the dragon stood before the woman who was about to give birth to devour her child as soon as it was born. Even in Yeshua's time, the Roman Empire wanted to, count all the people in Judea, and the devil knew this, and to have a pregnant woman go from Nazareth on a donkey all the way to Bethlehem could have been dangerous, and even killed the child that was in her womb, because by the time she got to Bethlehem, she was very pregnant, and when she couldn't get into the inn, they said, go over to the stables. They'll probably take you in, and so she went over to the stable, and again, we think it might have been the Levitical stable where the Levitical sheep were, and all that different things. And she bore a male child who was to shepherd all nations. This is how we know this is Yeshua, with a rod of iron. And her child was caught away to Elohim and to his throne. And the woman fled into the wilderness, where she had a place prepared by Elohim to be nourished 1,260 days. And there came to be fighting, and then it says down here, this is what I want to leave it with, in verse 11, and they overcame him because of the blood of the Lamb and because of the word of their witness. They did not love their lives to death. Because of this, rejoice, O heavens. Is that the one I wanted? Oh, no, the end of it. That's a good one. That's very good. But the end, verse 17, and the dragon was enraged with the woman, because she took off and was protected by the Father. And he went to fight with the remnant of her seed, those guarding the commands of Elohim and possessing the witness of Yeshua, Messiah.
Yes.
Wow. And we say, oh, we're not under the law anymore. You know, the law has been done away with. That's Brit Hadashah. That's New Testament that we're talking about, and it's perfect for what we're talking about. Without the law, there is no peace. Now, the law doesn't save you, but it gets you through these things, and it's the one who delivers us is Yeshua, the Messiah. But we need to obey his voice, his word, what he sees in us. Any other last things?
Yeah, I mean, it's just a matter of realizing the significance of what the scriptures tell us. That's the key. You know, if we're not partaking of what is written in the Bible, if we're not allowing his divine word to resonate in our hearts and in our mind, we're missing the understanding, because his divine word gives us understanding and gives us more, not just understanding, but revelation of what's required of us. And so we can't stress it enough to really be a student of the divine word, the Bible. Open up the scripture, go back to the beginning, start in Genesis, and read the scriptures on a regular basis, because it will enlighten you. And it's all about light. It's about having our hearts filled with light, our mind filled with light. And that's what's necessary in the day we're living in.
Amen. Amen. So I think we're at the end of what we need to do. So thank you so much, though. That was awesome. That was really, really, really a fun time. Don't you think?
I loved it. I absolutely loved it.
But we're going to get going, and so we really need to. We're right at the end. So thank you so much for being with us. Hope you enjoyed it. Share these videos with people. Share lambnetwork.tv with anyone that you can. There's a lot of great teachings on this network. So thank you so much. Don't forget War Room Prayers tomorrow. We're going to be on War Room Prayers tomorrow.
Yes.
And also Torah Study Among Friends on Shabbat. So thank you so much, everyone. Shalom, shalom.
Shalom Aleichem. Truth told. Yeshua, our Redeemer, conceived in a Jewish womb. Truth told. A life to behold, coming back to the land foretold. The scriptures unfold. Mount of Olives, the garden where it all began. The story told and the truth unfolds. Yeshua is known, a Jewish Messiah is born.
Truth told, Yeshua, our Redeemer, conceived in a Jewish womb. Truth told, our life to behold, coming back to the land foretold. The scriptures unfold, Mount of Olives, the garden where it all began. The story told and the truth unfolds. Yeshua is known, a Jewish Messiah is born.
The revelation to us is given to behold. Yeshua is known, a Jewish Messiah is born. The revelation to us is given to behold.
Truth told, Yeshua,
our Redeemer, conceived in a Jewish womb. Truth told, a life to behold, coming back to the land foretold. The scriptures unfold, Mount of Olives, the garden where it all began. The story told and the truth unfolds. Yeshua is known, a Jewish Messiah is born. Told. Yeshua, our Redeemer, conceived in a Jewish womb. Truth told, a life to behold, coming back to the land foretold.
Truth
told,
Yeshua,
our Redeemer, conceived in a Jewish womb. Truth told, a life to behold, coming back to the land